Good afternoon, everyone. For those that are here with us in the Senate chamber, and for those that are viewing via the legislative social media account and live cable TV. Today is the October 7, 2025, and approximately 35 p.m. here in the Senate chamber, and this is the Senate Fiscal Affairs Committee meeting, and I would like to officially call this meeting to order. Before I ask the clerk to call the roll, I wish to extend my appreciation on behalf of the committee and for the presence of some of the invitees this afternoon. I'm going to start with my left, the president of the Saipan Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Joe Guerrero, and to his left is the managing director for Marianas Visitors Authority, Ms. Jamaica Tyron, and to her left is the key staff, Ms. Judy, I believe she's the deputy director. Yeah, thank you, Judy Torres. And to her left is the president of HANMI, Mr. Seo, correct? Yes. And to his left is the director for Revenue and Taxation under the Department of Finance, Director Daniel Alvarez. And so with that, clerk, can you please call the roll to effectuate a quorum?
Senator Ronnie M. Cabo.
Present.
Senator Manny Gregory P. Castro.
Stick out.
Senator Francisco Q. Cruz.
Here.
Senator Jude Yoha Schneider.
Peggy.
Senator Karina L. Magofnia. Senator Donald M. Manglonia.
Present.
Senator Paul A. Manglonia. Mr. Chairman, 5 members are present, 2 members are absent.
With 5 members present, we do have a requisite number and a quorum to conduct this meeting today, and let the record reflect the Vice President Karina Magofnia and Senator Paul Manglonia is hereby excused from today's meeting. And before I ask the members to adopt the agenda for today, I also would like to recognize the Legislative Bureau staff that is assisting the committee today. To my left, next to Senator Ron Calvo, is the fiscal analyst, Mr. Dave Dimopon, and to my immediate left, the legal counsel for the fiscal affairs, Joe Bermudez. To my right is the legislative assistant for fiscal affairs, Jolene Dueñas Tagabuel. And the Sergeant at Arms that's assisting us this afternoon is the Sergeant at Arms Jonathan De Leon Guerrero. And the IT is accompanying us today or assisting us today is Mr. Delbert Komatsu. You miss anyone? And with that, do I hear a motion from any member to offer to adopt today's meeting agenda?
I move to adopt today's agenda.
Been a motion offered by the floor leader. Do I hear a second? Second. All those in favor to adopt today's meeting agenda, please say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Item number 4, public comment. Any member of the public that is willing to offer public comment with regards to today's order of business, you are welcome to do so. Let the record reflect that there's none. Under new business, if you're checking the agenda, we do have at least 7 on discussion today. And for the purpose of the individuals that are asked to be present today, if the members, no objection from the members, I wish to discuss item number 2 first, which is the House Bill number 24-32, entitled to establish a tax on transient accommodations and to regulate the operation of short-term rentals in the Commonwealth and for other purposes. and it is a House bill that is referred to the Fiscal Affairs Committee on September 8, 2025. So that is the purpose of our discussion today. And at this time, because this is and I want to say this as a part of at least the Senate's Committee on Fiscal Affairs effort to assist with the whole CNMI's recovery and pathway to the recovery of our economy. I would like to offer that as a statement on behalf of the committee that we want to partake in this effort, and as we've been hearing the last several weeks as far as our situation with our tourism. And the way we do that is by entertaining critical pieces of legislations that are before us, and one being House Bill 24-12. This is not the first time that this bill was introduced in the legislature. I believe this is the second go around, and I would like to respectfully ask that we continue working together to try and improve some of the language of the bill or the intent of the legislation to meet its objective. So without if there's no objection, I would like to first recognize the entity, the agency that is being proposed to handle or to enforce this. In this case, and I apologize, the House Bill is 2432. That is the transient, yeah. So at this time, I wish to recognize for any statement, opening statement, to the Director of Revenue Tax, Director Alvarez. Would you like to offer any opening statement with regards to this piece of legislation?
Yes. Good afternoon, Chairman Hofschneider and members of the committee. So I do support House Bill 24-32 because it modernizes and strengthens our tax policy on hotel accommodation tax. I mean, well, it will repeal and replace the hotel occupancy tax. However, I just want to point out that DRT lacks the capacity in regards to the global hosting platforms that we are going to be regulating with regards to requirements on registration and submitting reports and payments and filings monthly. Right now, DRT is developing a tax system that will provide online services, but that's just the basic functions for local taxpayers. As far as the requirements for these global hosting platforms to collect and remit payments to the CNMI, we don't have that capability as of now. It's far beyond what we are currently developing. My other concern is the strict requirements on local operators and hosting platforms. The requirements are absolute. There's no flexibility. And that could have unintended consequences in regards to the hosting platforms. It could discourage them with working with CNMI operators and whatnot. So, if we would just need more time to acquire the infrastructure, the online system, the registration, to make compliance more easier and less complicated for these online platforms. Regulating the local operators, that's something we've been doing. I'm just specifically talking about the online hosting operators. So, I guess my final comment would just be to be given the opportunity to refine the House bill so that we can make compliance more practical, more straightforward, and also discuss the requirements, because I'm not an expert on how this would work. I would need to find out how it would work and what kind of system we need, or to acquire or develop. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Alvarez. For the purpose of staying on discussion, the chair wishes to recognize the managing director for MBA. Would you like to offer your thoughts or opening statement with regards to the discussion today on this particular legislation?
Okay. Hafide and Teruami, Chairman Hofschneider, and honorable members of this committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on House Bill 2432, the Transient Accommodation Act of 2025. On behalf of the Marianas Visitors Authority, I express full support for this measure. Tourism remains the heart of our economy, but we're facing very serious challenges. Visitor arrivals have dropped sharply, flight service has not recovered to pre-pandemic levels, and hotel occupancy tax revenues, the very funds that support MVA's work, have fallen to less than half of what they were. That leaves us with limited resources to market the Marianas, restore flights, and improve the visitor experience, all of which are critical to reversing the decline. House Bill 2432 helps address this problem head-on. It modernizes the outdated hotel occupancy tax and ensures that all accommodations used by visitors, whether in hotels, condos, or online rentals through platforms like Airbnb, are captured in our tax system. At present, many of these rentals operate outside regulation, depriving the Commonwealth of much-needed revenue and creating unfair competition for law-abiding operators. This bill changes that. This bill defines transient accommodations clearly as as stays under 90 days, closing tax loopholes that exist right now. It requires registration of operators, brokers, and platforms with joint liability for tax collection. It strengthens enforcement with citations and penalties while allowing cure periods. And it retains the same revenue distribution, 80% to MVA and 20% to the retirement fund. For the MVA, maintaining that 80% share is critical. Every dollar we collect goes directly into stabilizing air service, promoting the Marianas in key markets like Korea and Japan and Hong Kong, and enhancing visitor sites here in our home. With tourism at its most fragile point in decades, we cannot afford leakage or lost revenues. Most importantly, House Bill 2432 levels the playing field so that all who benefit from our visitor industry contribute fairly to sustaining it. In a time of declining arrivals and shrinking budgets, we need every tool to strengthen our revenue base and reinvest in the recovery of tourism. For these reasons, the Marianas Visitors Authority strongly urges your support for House Bill 2432. Thank you for your time and the commitment for our future of our islands.
Jesus Masi, Managing Director, Tyron. The chair recognizes the president of Saipan Chamber, Mr. Joe Guerrero, to offer any statement if you wish to.
Jesus Masi, Hafide and Teruami, Chair. Committee Chair Hofschneider and other members of this committee. I'm going to start this. The Saipan Chamber of Commerce is in full support of the Transient Accommodations Bill, House Bill 24-32, and has actually played a role in developing this bill some 3 or 4 years ago. I was involved in the shaping of this bill when I was part of JASEA, the first JASEA. And there was a lot of back and forth between the group, the working group, Secretary of Finance, David Atalik at the time, myself and others who worked with the Attorney General's office, went back and forth to make sure that this was going to comply with the requirements and allowing for a third party to collect taxes. I also just wanted to note that there was a hosting platform one of the biggest hosting platforms for Airbnbs and these type of properties that was ready to sign an agreement with the Department of Finance, with the CNMI government to collect taxes and remit those. But when my understanding is when they discovered that our law doesn't allow for a third party to collect taxes on behalf of the CNMI, their legal team decided to hold and wait for this bill. So they're still waiting, along with other hosting platforms, to collect and be compliant. There was the time in many jurisdictions across the U.S. and around the world where this was an issue. And many jurisdictions around the world and in the U.S. have since adopted similar bills to collect taxes. From years ago, this was a non-traditional type of vacation rental and hotel, if you will. But now it's very, very common. The industry is very large. And in fact, a few years ago, we were debating on the numbers, and there was close to 500 operators in the CNMI. Today, there's maybe 100 or maybe less. But all of them are not paying hot taxes or paying taxes, but they're using the same sites, the same services that tourists avail of at all three islands, Saipan, Tinian, and Luta. So here we have a situation where we have an unfair system. Tourists are being, invited to the islands, but they're not paying their fair share of taxes. So MVA and the municipalities are being shortchanged every day that we don't pass this important bill. So I've been sounding like a broken record since 2 legislatures ago, the House bill in the House, trying to push this through. And so I'm happy that it's here in front of your committee. And I, along with the administration who I've spoken to about this, fully support its passage. This will close a big loophole. And going back to, and don't quote me because these are just my estimates, but in the peak of over roughly 500 operators in the CNMI, it was estimated that we may be not collecting $6 million. I even went as high as, in our best year in 2017, maybe we did not collect $8 million. Right? Today, it's probably a lot less than that. Maybe we're not collecting $1 to $2 million. There's still a lot of operators throughout the Saipan, at least to my knowledge, that are operating this. Again, every day we're not collecting taxes. So I encourage you to please work with the Department of Rev and Tax, support them if they need extra funding to figure their software system so that they can accommodate the hosting platforms. But let's not wait any longer, and the chamber and the business community is in full support of this important bill. So one thing also, if I may add, in the discussion of this bill, there was concerns about the safety or maybe substandard accommodations out there, and that's very important for a visitor industry. There have been reports of people making complaints when you go online and you book, the pictures look really nice, but when you go to the site, it's a dump. Like, none of us would even want to stay there. And so that really, again, it's a big it could be a big problem for our visitors when they come in and they feel that they were duped. So I'm hopeful that this bill would be the start, and maybe there could be amendments later on how to strengthen enforcement to ensure that the regulatory agencies are involved in certifying the operators of Airbnbs, who are typically kind of mom and pop operators, smaller. Some it could be just a couple rooms at the back of their house, or in apartments that are out of sight, out of mind. And last but not least, the chamber has always been a proponent of fair taxation for all. We have our operators, right, the major hotels paying taxes, keeping up with their properties, but here you have, again, a group of operators. We're grateful for their services, but again, they're not subject to the same standards, and we want to level the playing field. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. President, Joe Guerrero, last but not the least, I want to thank Mr. Seal for joining us this afternoon. And if you wish to offer any opening statement or share your thoughts with regards to this legislation.
Yes, Chair. Happy to you. Good afternoon. The Chair Hofschneider and the other members of the committee. My name is Dennis Seo, the representing Hanmi as a chair. The Hanmi fully support and endorse this the House Bill 24-32 for the following reasons. We feel that we need to update the CNMI code in terms of the taxation. I mean the HOT taxes, and it's a really good time to moving forward at this challenging times. And as the chair, I mean the president of the Chamber of Commerce, the Joe said, it has been for some reason unfair for the hotel and the accommodation industry for some time. And Hanmi members are fully aware of this one, and we are paying all the duties, but some for some reason there's just some leak of that. Some hotel accommodation like Airbnb or lodging, they may not fully comply with the even current with the HOT system. So we are grateful that a fair taxation system is really good thing one we should have at this challenging time as well. And actually, as we can see, there are lots of different booking platform, not only direct sales by the hotel or travel agency. There are lots of different platform, meaning what does mean that the potential guests they made booking was a local hotel accommodation or motel or whatever the accommodation, they in a way that they may not fully comply with the tax the system. So to have this kind of the initiative, I think this is like very important source of taxation. And as we know that HOT tax 90% is goes for MBA's budget, but for the challenging time, the taxation what we can collect is pretty much low at this point. And we believe this fair taxation system may help the not only hotel but also tourism related stakeholder like MBA to have the bigger budget and for variety of the marketing activity. I feel that there are two tracks to make this the bill more effective. The first one is like enforcement. Even if we passes of this bill, if there's a not effective enforcement, then this bill might be just good for the papers. So there should be strong enforcement by the regulatory agency. And second, I believe by doing so, I feel that we can have the broader market source, not only a majority of three nations like Korea, Japan, or China, to have by the granting more taxation and the granting more budget for the MBA. And MBA may utilize this budget to expand our market, looking for another source of the market. So we feel, the Hanmi feel that we fully endorse this House Bill 24-32, and we wanted to discuss further how we can contribute in putting this one in places. So again, thank you for the invitation for us to listen to us, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seal. We're gonna generate if there's just for everyone's information, we're gonna be generating some Q&A, and please feel free to share your, if you share your insights as to each question that is being posted. So before I pose my question, I wish to recognize members I recognize Senator Manny Castro.
Thank you, Chairman. I do support this bill. However, I do share the same sentiment as our Director of Tax and Rev. I can just see some of the issues here, like in terms of the fines. I think they're a bit excessive. And I was able to look at other states and what their fines are, and it's not at 500 per day. I believe we are going to be having the same issue we have with the late filing fees at Commerce that a lot of businesses have complained about, where it's like it's a per day situation. In many other states, they don't charge that kind of fee per day. Sometimes they charge a flat fee, or if you don't file your annual report within 3 months, they just cancel your business license. So I think this the fee that we have, I was looking at other states, and it's like usually 10% of the what they made in that day. That's the violation. So if it's like 30 days, it's 10% per day of whatever the revenue they made. $500 per day is that's a very excessive kind of violation, and I foresee problems. Again, the biggest thing here is enforcement, and we have our Director of Tax and Rev really stressing that. I think there's some some improvement that can be made. As far as the system or how to collect the tax, that's really on the person that is operating the business. They need to figure that out and make sure they pay the tax. So I know some Airbnb operators that even though this law wasn't in place, they were paying the tax. That was kind of like a question. I had, I helped some families set up an Airbnb for their, and they were good hosts actually, but they stopped because the economy is just not doing so well right now. But I do agree with MVA's sentiment that, we have to make sure everybody's paying the tax, especially since a lot of the carriers that are coming in are low-cost carriers, which is the type of demographics that look for Airbnbs and these types of accommodation packages. But yeah, that's just my concern here is the violations pretty excessive, and at the same time it's like we just keep adding on administrative costs onto the business license. People already apply for a business license, and then we're going to add another cost for this type of line item business where it says certificate of registration. I could see the value in that. But I at the same time, I just want to remove some of the barriers, because I think some of the way we're taxing, we're using the permitting side, or the permitting side to generate revenue rather than focusing on the after the business makes the sale. Which is, I find that it's better to do it at the end of the sale rather than upfront. That was just on item 9. It's not a big issue, but again, I think we just maybe need to flush out some of these things, especially with the daily penalties. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Castro. Recognized Floor Leader Manglonia.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon to everyone. I just want to start off by maybe asking MVA, based off of the customs form that these travelers fill in, have you been able to identify a list of accommodations that these tourists are booking through but aren't registered anywhere in the CNMI?
The MVA is only able to collect the information that they bubble.
Right.
That's the only. Any other information, especially the handwritten, that's all that is kept at finance or customs.
Paper
The
form?
The handwritten section,
Uh-huh.
because for example, they're asked what is their address or name of hotel while within the cinema.
Right.
So it's handwritten. Yeah, it's we only collect the bubble section. That's the only areas that we get to generate our monthly arrivals report as well as our visitor arrival report. Although there is a section there that they bubble on type of accommodation that they'll be staying in hotels, private residence with family and friends, or bed and breakfast.
Didn't you back, or I don't know, maybe back when it was a paper form, didn't you guys get a copy of those?
We do, and we had a scanner to collect those information, and the scanner only captures the bubble form,
Okay.
the bubble section, because it's a optical mark reflex scanner. It was not an OCR.
Director Alvarez, is it something that, does a form just stay within customs? And have customs been able to, or has your division been able to identify some of these accommodations that aren't registered in the CNMI?
This is a question I'll have to talk to the director of customs about. They're the ones that collect the information. As far as what information they collect exactly, I can't say.
Okay. Now this question is for either entity. Have you been able to identify any numbers, or do you have any data on these accommodations that are not being taxed, or I guess are operating illegally? Do you have these figures anywhere?
On the MVA side, we do not have that figure anywhere.
Okay.
Well, in the hotel, we just estimated, let's just say, for example, 100 tourists came here, then, the 60 to 70% staying at the major hotel of the Hanmi, and 20% probably staying at the non-Hanmi hotel like Airbnb or motel here, and 10% resident. So we assume that 15 to 20% of the actual arrivals are staying at non-Hanmi hotel.
Okay. Maybe MVA, do you think it should be a requirement that tourists would have to list down the actual place they'll be staying at, and then that's something that should be provided to either revenue tax or MVA? I mean, everywhere, even in foreign countries, right, they ask you where you're staying, and then you have to write it down. And is that something that should be required on customs side, or?
Thanks for that question. That question does exist on the form,
Right.
but right now it's typed in, and according to deputy, that information is not available to us. It's just the information that is, there's like a
Bubbled,
bubble, or a drop
So
down.
who collects that typed in response? And shouldn't you be able to get a list of that?
Yeah.
Let us discuss this with customs. Thinking about the infrastructure or the software application development. As a matter of fact, later this week, the developer is coming on island, and he's going to be looking at our scanner. So maybe I'll bring that up. I know there might be some funding, because they will need to redesign the application and see what we can do. Maybe have a drop-down menu, and all the hotel, because all the hotels are there, and if it's not there, we'll have them type it in.
Thank you.
So we'll look
Yeah,
into it.
thank you for sharing.
Mhm.
Director Alvarez, do you have any information or data on the revenue for these types of accommodations currently?
It's possible I can get data from 2020 to 2023. As far as and this is all self-reporting data.
Right.
Right, so these are where businesses report that they are in the accommodations industry and revenues that they've received for those years. So I can get data on that.
I mean, okay. If you can, because I mean, even in preparation or even in implementing or even if this becomes law, right, that's something that you would use as projections. And so does anyone have any information as what do we expect to project from these types of accommodations that are now required to, pay into these taxes in today's numbers?
I'm on Airbnb right now, and this is just one of the platforms, right? There's VRBO, there's the Korean travelers have their own, Chinese travelers have their own kind of platform, but just Airbnb alone showing 183 homes, but a lot of them, the homes have multiple units in the home, so let's just assume it's 183 rooms out there. And I just did a search for 1 week, end of October to November. The way it works is people can block their units out if there's already a reservation. So let's assume that a lot of these are already booked or some are booked. So around 200 units out there. That's the size of one of our hotels in Saipan. So imagine one hotel not paying hot tax, right? And even let's say it's cheaper at these accommodations because they're not paying the hot, and maybe they're a little bit more efficient and lower cost. So it's still, I mean, I'm not that good in math right now, but I can do the math, and it's hundreds of thousands of dollars easily. I can put more time into working with Reverend Tax to come up with a number, which I was part of a team that did that originally. But this is just, again, one platform showing how many rooms that are available right now for that 1 week in October. And I didn't search Tinian and Rhoda yet, but I'm sure there's a
There's
few.
about 180 here on Saipan alone that are registered with Airbnb.
Units, yeah. And again, some of these are one home, which is one unit, but some of these are apartments and they have 6 units. So there's at least, I'm estimating maybe 200 units out there. But individual operators, I think it's probably about 100.
Do you know because like if you were to book an Airbnb in a U.S. state, right, it has the state taxes on there. If this becomes law, is that something that, or how do we, I guess, require Airbnb to collect taxes at the time of booking, or do you know?
Yeah,
do you know
good
to
question.
what extent?
Yeah, so these are famous cases in New York particular. New York wanted to shut down Airbnb. Like, you don't pay the tax, and so they end up settling and coming to an agreement that they're going to collect taxes just like any other hotel property. And so it's standard already in the industry worldwide. I use Airbnb when I travel every now and then. And yeah, the taxes are there, state taxes. Sometimes the city has its own tax. Like municipality could have its own tax. And people that stay in Airbnbs are used to having actually everything being disclosed, because sometimes there's a cleaning fee, there's all these fees. So what you see advertised as the daily rate, once you get to the bottom line, sometimes it costs more than a hotel. Airbnb actually is not only for budget conscious travelers. People that are traveling with family or people with special needs tend to want to stay in a home for privacy and other accessibility issues. But if you have a big family, it tends to be more economical, and you have the freedom and can cook and things like that. But Airbnbs and these type of properties can play a actually very important role in Hawaii, for example, in Honolulu. The major hotels were losing businesses to these vacation properties. So what these big hotel groups started doing is they started buy them out. They can't compete with them, so they bought them out, and they were fine paying because they felt they were suffering. So they bought him out and they're paying taxes, and they got rid of the competition, so to speak. But at the end of the day, they wanted to make sure that the Honolulu in particular wanted to make sure that the standards and people were safe. Their tourists were safe. They were very concerned about unsafe standards, and again, rental properties being rented with no security or in places that tourists would be compromised. Or so. Sorry, I hope I answered your question, but I think it takes a little bit time to calculate, but we can get a good number for you later on.
Okay. Director?
Yeah. So I would like to add in regards to the hosting platforms collecting and remitting taxes. So here in like subsection H of House Bill 2432, it strictly requires the hosting platform to collect and remit taxes to Division of Revenue and Taxation. In the research I was doing, looking at other U.S. jurisdictions, I have yet to see a U.S. jurisdiction that straight up requires a hosting platform to collect and remit. There's some flexibility in allowing them to do so, but not requiring them to do so. So far, as far as what I'm seeing. And on top of that, this House bill doesn't really explain the authority DRT has on these global corporations that aren't even located in the CNMI.
Okay. Do you know, is anyone familiar on Airbnb? And so if a person puts their house up for rental and Airbnb collects the taxes, nothing, would the homeowner also have to pay? So it's like double taxation, or is that anyone familiar with how Airbnbs would work? Because that would be an issue here too, I guess. Senator Costa, you have a...
Yeah, so like I said, I did help a few people list their properties on Airbnb, and usually the people that I help, when they put in the taxes, even though I kind of question like if they really were supposed to, and apparently they were not, but Tax and Rev still collected it. So there's those fields where you can set up those taxes. So it will charge the customer, and then the business owner will go and pay that to Tax and Rev. Yeah.
So Airbnb collects the taxes for the homeowner, and then you would have to pay it yourself? Is that...
Yeah, so basically if you're doing your if you own the...
Just say you're the operator of the building.
Yeah, you're the
How do you-
operator of the building. You set up the parameters on the system. Then basically when someone books, that person that books, they pay all of that. Then the money is reverted to the operator. Then the operator goes and pays Tax and Rev.
And it's not prohibited, right? That's the way it functions today.
To my understanding, no. But at the same time, it's like lack of enforcement, just like all our other issues. Like there's a lot out there that I'm sure that are not paying. And
Sure.
Airbnb is just one platform. VRBO, I know that's more for like the people that stay longer, mostly in the medical field. But yeah, it's not as set up as Airbnb. But again, there's other platforms in different countries, and that's where I think director's concern is. So we have to have people specialize in those go and negotiate those MOUs and stuff.
Sure.
Probably. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Floor Leader, you still have the floor.
Yeah.
Please.
Thank you. I guess those are good information that we can use to discuss how we can incorporate some of these challenges into this legislation. With that, I yield, Chairman.
Thank you, Floor. So again, we're discussing 2432, and this is the establishment of a tax on transient accommodation to regulate operation of short-term rentals in the Commonwealth of Grand Islands. And there's a lot of discussions questions being generated, and by way of the concerns being raised, and we're flagging those comments. And it is for that reason that we are having this discussion this afternoon. I would like to just make a statement real quick here. What I want to circle back of what the president of the Chamber of Commerce mentioned earlier about the marketing and the advertisement of a very nice room and accommodation, and then only to learn that our visitors are put in almost a substandard. It's not a good optics, or it's just not a good presentation for us here. So at this time, I recognize Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Chairman. And good morning, everyone. And thank you for coming up here to discuss a very serious matter that in regards to this transit legislation. Mr. Guerrero, you mentioned earlier that it's a dwelling, it's a house that has multiple units inside, and that dwelling has business license to have that multiple unit inside.
I don't know if they have business license, but they're advertising like they're operating a business.
Because I think with revenue and tax collaboration with other stakeholders, for example, if that has business license, and I think it should be a collaboration between revenue and tax and another enforcement, like for example for safety, right, in that dwelling, like the fire department and other related department that will regulate or enforce the safety of the customer. Because if we continue to allow this, and I'm good that you guys bringing up and you're supporting to have this legislation in place, because not only that it's going to pose liability and it's not going to be a good promotion for the Commonwealth if outsiders, especially visitors, come in and they're not safe in that dwelling, because it's not inspected by the proper authority to make sure that business have safety inspection by the proper authority to make sure that it is suitable for customers to be in that building. Because if there's no collaboration on revenue tax just or even other agency that approve license, right? And we're not saying anything about we know that these guys have license, but they're not paying other than BCRT. They're not paying like what we have now, the hotel occupancy, and they're converting that to some kind of like apartment. Like it's an apartment, but they convert it to apartment just to make money, from tourists that come sure to avail to the cheap price of. Because I've seen a lot of in the past. I've seen tourists dragging their luggage to the
Chinatown.
I think they're going down to some of our hotels. Maybe I'm assuming that maybe for the last 2 days or the last day they'll check in at a very expensive hotel, no? Because the first day that they came here, they take advantage of the Airbnb or something, just to save and that's okay for them to to find cheaper place, but the safety is very, very important, because we are trying to promote the cinema, and even hotel, Amni and Chamber of Commerce, we're trying, everybody's trying to promote, no? It's a good place to take vacation, but once that happen, and a lot of those customers die in that building, I don't think it's a good promotion for the Commonwealth. It's going to ruin our reputation that we're not addressing this kind of issue, and we continue to allow people to take advantage on the cheaper rooms, but yet we're not thinking about the safety. I think revenue and tax should be collaborating with, if somebody comes and buy license of an apartment, I think should be inspected first before even issue the license, because because I know even you have a zoning law here. Even zoning office, they making sure that it's safe, making sure that that size of a unit or house that converted to a unit has the number of parking to be able to accommodate. Those are the things. I think we should be very careful and be helping one another to avoid liability and and making our cinema a bad place to take vacation. I'm just saying, I think we should be looking into those areas also, not only collecting taxes and blah blah blah, but as well as the safety of a customer, no? Because everybody wants to, even us when we go outside the common, we try to get the cheapest room, right? The same thing as them, right? I don't blame those people coming here to find cheaper room, but I think also we have to look outside the box and see how, what kind of safety for these customers, because we're trying to promote the cinema as a place to have your vacation with a family. Not only we're promoting a water or any other sightseeing, what you call this, historical side or stuff like that, but as well as we have to think about the safety of and everybody should be collaborating to, put in some ideas to make it a safe place to take vacation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Cruz. Any other member before? Recognize Senator Paul Manglonia.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm just wondering, what would you think if we put a provision that exempts an operator, an owner of a bed and breakfast, if they only have one home, one house? And the reason for that is we want to encourage our local people here who have an extra house, and they want to invest, make it nice, and avail of this opportunity to generate some income. I don't want them to compete with the hotels and that are well funded and all that. And I want to encourage these local people to go to CDA, borrow money, fix your house, provide it with a flat screen and beautiful furniture, and rent it out. And even if it means that they have to find an operator, so there could be one operator using 20 homes that are individually owned, and they're the ones marketing it. There's nothing wrong. The operator will be more encouraged to go after those homes because they don't have to pay hotel occupancy tax. And we shouldn't care that they don't pay hotel occupancy tax because they're going directly to the individual owners. But once you own 2 homes, then you don't qualify under that exemption. And so I just want to see that. I want our local people here to take advantage of that. So I'm going to ask our legal counsel to work with the House Legal Counsel, and I just want to put that in. What do you think of that?
I think, if I may, Senator, I think that's a good idea because you're promoting entrepreneurship, right, and kind of helping the smallest business person. But I think it's trying to find a balance between the fairness, right, and making sure that it's not going to be abused. So there's people will find a loophole around that and get 5 homes and put it in one in each of their kids, for example, and then all of a sudden they have 5 homes, but they're all operating, all connected, but really operating under different owners. So that's my caution on something like that, and people may find a loophole. So that'll be my only concern, I think, at this time. Thank you. If I may, also another on the flip side to collecting taxes is my thoughts on there could be a possibility where people package deals, and I don't know if this is the bill to address this, but it will be a concern, or it could be a concern, where you have a room and car package, and someone could claim that the room is $20 per night, but the car is $110 per day, right? So they're flipping it around. And so I think and it has happened before, where people might claim that, no, my room is only $20, but my car is $150. So I think maybe empowering or putting a provision there that it's like the fair market value, right, or reasonable fair market value, that the rev and tax can, if there's a package deal, that they could basically look into the kind of unfair allocation of what is really the cost of the room versus the car, and you know, and it's going to be on a case by case, but I think we need to close that loophole, because it can get out of hand, right? Especially when you start packaging a car and now food and, you know, sightseeing, and then you don't even know how much is the room, and we're not going to be collecting the fair amount of tax. So thank you.
Mr. Chairman, on that concern, I thought that that's addressed already, because there's a car rental tax, right? So if they make that car $100, the room is $50, we'll catch them on the car rental side, right?
Yeah. The issue, I think the scenario is especially if this is sold overseas, right? So a package could be sold in China, for example, right? It's a one package deal, and then when they claim their hotel occupancy tax to revenue tax, you know, the revenue tax is going to take their return at face value, right? And so there's bad actors may
but what about, wouldn't that same person have to report car rental revenue, so that they tax him on the car rental?
They would, but if you start putting other projects, right, car rental, but what about like if you add sightseeing and now lunch and now a tour to Manigaha, now that the package could become very, you know, again, a loophole that we don't want. Again, it's about fairness. So just to keep that in mind.
Thank you, Senator Poe. And I don't know if it's I'm just looking at the bill right now at face value, and there's page 18, line 14, subsection K. It appears to be a applicable tax imposed in addition to, it's just very specific. The tax imposed by this chapter shall be in addition to any other taxes imposed. So that exchange between our inquiry by Senator Paul could fall into this, perhaps, if it's inclusive in the language of this particular intent. And Senator Convo, before I recognize you, sir, I wanted to just pose this question maybe to any of you on page 14 on their hosting platform as tax collection agent, aka operator. So this is the portion that the guidance that is representation of the app, right? The Airbnb, for that matter, Joe. So what you're saying, no, earlier? This is the consistency you're talking about?
What page is it? Sorry.
Page 14 on line 17. H.
Page 14.
So this could very well mean the app Airbnb. This is the host, right?
Yes.
This is the operator.
Yes.
And again, you know, we're just having a conversation here, so please, you know, feel free to respond if any of you, you know, Director Daniel, you mentioned earlier in your statement that you needed some time to delve into, and I stand corrected, the software perhaps to enforce some of these potential responsibilities should this become law. Was that you were referring to earlier about the?
Yes, I'm not an expert in that topic, so I would need to get advice from somebody who is, because I don't know how it would work on how these hosting platforms would, you know, if somebody books a room on booking.com or Expedia, and the hosting platform withholds that transit accommodation tax, if we don't have the capability to receive that payment from them, then, you know, that would be an issue that we would run into.
Okay. No, I just wanted to qualify what you were mentioning earlier. Eh? So, because if it's not mentioned in this is perhaps something. This is the period that for us to make the necessary fix. Senator Castro, you want to chime in?
So I think, you know, in terms of compliance, it's not the hosting platform that's responsible for paying the tax. It's the operator that has the business license. So, like, for example, I mean, I know this bill is saying that, but you know, if we're looking at the root like the process, it's really the responsibility of who owns the business to make sure that they're paying their tax to the government, not necessarily Airbnb or VRBO or any of those. So
Okay.
that's just
No,
my
no,
concern.
no, that's good, Senator, because if it's not clear in here, and you think the committee feels that we need to mention it, then, or even the working group, I would
Well, I
like to.
think
If I may.
With that, I
Uh,
mean, if it's part of
Senator.
the law, it's something that has to be taken out because there's no way that we can go after Airbnb or
Yeah.
Expedia or
Sure.
these platforms.
If I may, the conversation at the time when this was being formulated was that it's we have a hard time collecting from a lot of people in the same way regards to taxes. You know, hotel operators like the major Crown Plaza and Neeland. I mean, they pay on time, right? And they pay they pay above board. But a lot of the operators were concerned in the Airbnb space are really smaller operators. You know, maybe not as vested. And were the threat at the time, my understanding and recalling, is that they were afraid that these people are not going to pay their taxes, close up and leave, you know, flip and change the name of the company, sell it. And this is when we were moving so fast in 2017, 18. These things were popping up, and that was the concern. So I think if we allow Airbnb, and they actually, it was Airbnb that said we'll collect taxes, no problem. We do that in some jurisdictions, not all. So we'll collect it and we can remit to the CNMI on whatever weekly, monthly, whatever's the requirement. You know, that's the details on how they're going to transmit that will be ironed out by Revenue Tax. But they would gladly collect for the CNMI, and I know and remember Secretary of Finance said that, hey, why not? Let's have them collect right away and even remit it daily or whatever. Which they said they were fine remitting daily, because we wanted to collect the hot like right away, not wait till 30 days later the return is due by the Airbnb. So. Hopefully that incentivizes you to collect it and maybe ask Airbnb to do it daily or weekly. Thanks.
Okay. Well, I'm going to recognize Senator Calvo this time. Senator, please.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you, members, all the stakeholders in regards to this House Bill 2432. In reflection, just, you know, with the information and everything, it is good. It is, you know, and I thank all of you in regards to the pros and cons and also the support for this taxation. And just, it can be simple, but yet complex. In regards to the tax collection, we're looking at, you know, agencies from international locations and the ramifications of coming here, and you want to tax the tangible people that are here, not necessarily the agent, but the operators or who is, you know, doing this. Another thing I'm looking in the tourism space is the change, you know, the hotel, the traditional versus non-traditional era, where it's your big hotels and everything, and that's the traditional we're accustomed to. Now the paradigm has shifted, where Airbnb, once that boomed in the US, it's international and everywhere. So that it is a lot of back and forth as far as how we're going to set up that framework to ensure that this taxation with the enforcement, with registering, so the message is for all those in the Commonwealth, whether it's international businesses, whether it's your local or what, in knowing the condition of our economy, you know, we got to be true to our game. You know, if we're businessmen and women and international, we have to come together and say, hey, if you have a neighbor doing some sort of operation, hey, this is a route you need to take. You know, let's not, you know, so we have to be upfront and we have to educate them too. And so, you know, aside from the enforcement, so everybody will be on the same page. If you just pay your dues, you know, it'll be a better place for all of us here in the Commonwealth. So that's my educational take on it. And, you know, I'm looking at bungalows and different, you know, botanicals and just different areas, even the municipality where we live in Rhoda, they don't want the traditional. And I like the way, you know, I'm in special ed, the accommodation with you know, those with accessibility needs, or they want a different experience. So we are actually selling the experience. So it's that non-traditional atmosphere. It's a big billion-dollar industry. So the thing is, I do also agree we need to, like Chairman says, we need to buckle up. We need to see these loopholes that all of you are mentioning, and hopefully the viewers out there can say, hey, I'm doing this undercover. I need to, be upfront. I need to help our Commonwealth, and I need to register in whatever framework we all, from the taxation part to, we can't just depend on the HOTS tax. These guys are staying afloat. But these people, businesses, I'm not for or against, but we have to be upfront, with MVA. And Senator Donald mentioned, because I know we did a travel international, how can we set up that database framework where when travelers do come in, that accountability and transparency, where we find out, okay, you're going to take care of this data, you're collecting this, MVA is collecting that. So we have that transparency, and we'll go, okay, with the 7,000 visitors, this is how much registered in HOTS, this is how much Airbnb, and try to match up those numbers to see where that gap may be placed. So it's gonna take each and every one of us that effort. So I'm just sharing my thoughts in regards to the platform. And yeah, as we come along, have the conversation, we're tweaking it. It's a process. And I thank you guys for being here, because this is what it takes to move forward. Thank you, Chairman.
Senator Calvo. Any other comments any of the panels wish to offer? Senator? I'm sorry, Director.
Yes, I would like to mention two things here. In regards to what Senator Castro mentioned with who is liable, on page 16, line 21, it says the tax collection agent, which is the third party, such as the broker, agency, or platform, and the operator are jointly liable for paying over the taxes. And in regards to what Senator Donna Maglonia mentioned with double taxation, I just want to point out that the hotel occupancy tax is a tax that's imposed on the guest, whereas the transit accommodation tax on this bill is imposed on the operator. So it's a tax that's imposed on the amount that the room is charged towards the guest, and it would be taxed again under the gross revenue tax law. So maybe there could be a provision in there that excludes the transit accommodation tax amount from the business gross revenue tax, because they would get taxed twice.
Okay. And to staying on point, Director, and again, I'm just reading this off of the Title 4, Division 1 of subsection 1502. Under B with the HOT, the tax imposed by this section shall be collected by the person who operates, owns, or manages a hotel, lodging house, motel, resort motel, apartment motel, rooming house, private residence, bed and breakfast, condominium, or similar facility as and when paid or charged to the hotel, lodging house, motel, resort motel, apartment motel, rooming house, private residence, bed and breakfast, condominium, or similar facility. So it's already in the code. So
Yes.
You're going back to what you're saying. It's the operator now that so we need to make sure that there's no redundancy or possible questionable double taxation activity is what you're referring to.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood what you're.
No,
I
you
didn't really
mentioned something
understand what
about
you were
there's
saying.
potential double taxation
Correct, because
situation
in
in the way
the hotel occupancy tax is a tax that's imposed on the guest. So if the room will cost $100, that the guest is the one that pays that additional $15, and the operator withholds it and sends it to rev and tax. Whereas the transit accommodation tax, the way it's written, it's a tax that's imposed on the cost of the room. So if the operator charges the guest $100 for the room, the operator receives that $100, and 15% of that 100 goes to revenue tax. So the tax is imposed on the operator, and the operator has to pay the transit accommodation tax on that amount and the gross revenue tax on the same amount. So it's getting taxed twice.
Noted. Senator Castro.
Yeah, so that's the area that needs to be tweaked and just mirror the hotel occupancy tax where it's to the customer. And I know those that I assisted that were doing the Airbnb, some of them just paid it out of their, like, they didn't charge a separate, they just paid it out of their sales, which is like they just took the hit, but in reality they're supposed to charge extra directly to the customer, but they didn't want to do that because they didn't want the price to go up, so they just took the hit on their side. And the person that I'm saying that was doing this Airbnb is like in 1 year, because they used to rent their house just like a regular house rental, and then that time when the market was really good, I was like, you should try at least doing 50%, try Airbnb and house rental, and they just stayed doing that accommodation. So it's the same concept that Senator Paul is talking about, is really getting our people kind of like involved and in the being an entrepreneur, but at the same time you also get a good cultural aspect. I know some of my friends that went to Korea that stayed in Airbnb, they also have the host option where they taught them how to cook in Korean food and all of that. That feature I don't think is open on for Saipan yet. So we just have to really think about our customers, our tourists that are coming in. Like when I went to Korea, back when I was still working at the college, I took a weekend vacation to Korea, and I was sitting next to tourists that were all going back together, and this was like their 4th time staying at PIC, and they just like love PIC. And for some reason there were a lot of engineers. Like the 3 people that I was talking to were family people, but they were engineers, and they just all those 3 times they went to PIC. But one thing I think our hotels need to also look at is, like, if we're getting that kind of market, also maybe look into Airbnb. What attracts these guys to Airbnbs? Is it the kitchen, and redesign the rooms to fit the demographics? Like, if you're a family traveling, you're going to want your own kitchen too. Yes, you want to be at the hotel and eat at, but maybe you might want to cook that night. So just some of the rooms maybe we can encourage. I mean, I just introduced a bill to increase the thing for 99 years, or legislative initiative, but that's the whole concept, is to give the investors more time to kind of like, redesign their product, because we have a lot of competition, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, but our process needs to evolve. Meaning, when I went to Korea, I didn't need to go to pay at the, Seoul Tower or whatever, like right there. Like I could have just, right out the airport, I paid for the Seoul Pass, and it gave me access to all the public spaces that I wanted to go to, like for a 3-day pass. So that's something that MVA needs to work with Parks and Rec and maybe the legislature and reevaluate the way we collect funds. Because, with WeChat, we're not even in WeChat, but when Chinese tourism was up to par, all the transactions were happening in WeChat. Meanwhile, Maniagaha is still paper cash. But the illegal tour operators are going on the other side of the island and dropping their tourists. So, we need to look at our process, because it's, we can have all these nice laws in paper, but like Director said, if he doesn't have the people, and, at the same time, I remember when they were really getting on those unlicensed Airbnb operators, and they were serving them like, hey, you're operating under house rental and not this, and it got so hot. But then somebody kind of like intervened in the government and told them to like relax. I don't know if this is like a little too deep, but I remember seeing those those things happen. So again, we really need to to look at our process, our competition, how to make it more convenient for our guests. I mean, I know I was speaking to some of the colleagues at the house, and even looking at a either exit fee or exit survey or entrance fee. Like when you go to Palau, there's a fee already attached, and instead of it going through like the hotel and MVA and then divvying out the money, it's like so whether MVA realizes or not, that's why I introduced the recycling bill. So we can, once that bill is implemented, you're going to see less of these at the beaches. And then we can remove MVA from having to collect a tax to clean up the beach, because there's going to be less litter. So I know it doesn't look sexy and all of that, but there's a reason to some of these bills to indirectly take care of the root problem. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Castro. Recognize Mr. Seal.
Yeah. Going back to the hosting platform. Well, speaking of having hosting platform as a tax collection agent, I feel because this is as you know global platform, and there's tons of global platform, and probably later on there will be another platform coming up. So as a hotel operator, at the same time, I'm not sure how we can really work around having the hosting platform as a tax collection agent. Well, when we set up the bar rate that we post on the global platform, the senator, the many said, and the director said, we already added HOT taxes there, but competition between the hotels is getting stronger, so we wanted to add on the top of actual bar rate. So for example, $100 times 1.50, I mean the 15%, so 115. But in reality, we are not able to do that because of strong competition. Just to keep the lower hotel occupancy. That's in reality what happening. And when you work with a global platform, there are some different system making the rate by each platform. So basically, Agoda.com and the what's that? Booking.com. Sorry, that's a major platform. But even their system, how to calculate the actual room rate and tax all the duty on the top of that. So if you see $100 at the Agoda.com or Booking.com, the actual payment for the room rate the operator get is different, even if they show the same room rate there. So it's pretty much tricky there. And I saw having them as a collection of the tax in reality is pretty much, I feel, as a hotel operator, probably there will be lots of challenges, and we have to figure it out how we can make it work around. And the senator, the members, the many said, we may find out another way that, for example, if Dennis sale made bookings through the Agoda.com, but I'm staying at the Airbnb, but probably they issue the confirmation for the Airbnb that I booked it. Then once we return it, when we exit somewhere at the airport, then they may get a certain number of percentage taxes paid back, and we utilize this one with a tax and revenue the office. For example, I stayed at the A hotel 3 nights there, and he paid $300, so $100 per night, $300 in total. And once a day, then I stayed at the Airbnb, not hotel, and I showed this one to the somewhere at the airport. Then I'm entitled to get tax refund for certain amount. For example, let's just say 5%. And with this one, then we may impose the taxes, the HOT taxes or transition taxes to that A hotel, something like that. Just off my top of the head.
Interesting, Mr. Shill. Director Jamaica?
Yeah, thank you. If we're just speaking openly,
Please.
I just want to, we heard earlier from Tax and Rev that it's difficult to, with the resources they have, to facilitate all of these. And then we heard that there's loopholes. We're trying to close the loopholes. We heard that we want to support small businesses, like if someone has an extra home at that they want to do Airbnb. And earlier, Senator Castro mentioned about like a entrance fee or an exit fee. I think this is a really good way to look at it also. If we can combine all of the fees that we would charge on our islands, on all the islands, and come up with a certain number that we charge each individual into the CNMI, that would eliminate the challenge with how to collect all the hotel occupancy taxes from all of the different platforms and all the hotels on the islands. And two, it would 100% close the loophole, because now you're collecting from every single individual that enters into the islands. But I really like what Palau's doing. I'll say that when I booked my ticket to Palau and I saw that I got charged $100, I was already like, wow, that's a lot. I wasn't too happy about it. But when I went to Palau and I experienced, and I had such a good experience, I would pay that $100 easily. So I think we definitely need to monetize our beautiful islands. We need to monetize our attractions and our sites. Right now, they're all free, but they cost money to maintain. And the only people making money out of it are the tour guides, because they charge to bring people to the free sites. They charge tourists to bring people to free sites. So my thoughts, and I've also shared this with some other members of leadership, is to consider that kind of a tax, like an entry fee, where the travelers know how much they're going to be charged per person, and then when they come, they pay it. Let's say at customs, they'll pay it straight at customs, and then we don't charge hotel occupancy tax anymore. We don't charge Manigaha $10 anymore. We don't charge Grotto $5 anymore. It's all built into that fee already. So that's another take. It's just off the top of my mind, and thank you for bringing that up.
Director, this is why it's good to have this kind of conversation with the experts. You guys are the ones that deal with this almost on a yearly basis. So this is the time to look at other avenues, to just embrace just that one time. Before I recognize any members, I want to just briefly recognize Dave Limupan real quick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to go back to Director Alvarez from Revenue and Tax. You mentioned about double taxation. When you look at the bill, there's a transient tax there of 15%, right? And that accounts for the amount of payment that a customer or a tourist would pay for the accommodation. But I don't see anything there that relates to the operator, that the operator is also going to be taxed 15%, and that will constitute double taxation. I just want to understand that the operator is in charge of the business gross receipt tax, gross revenue tax. It has nothing to do with the the trustee tax there of that 15%, because that 15% is withheld and I think subsequently paid after 20 days later after the collection of that period. So for example, if the customer comes in there on, say, the month of January, the following month, about 20 days later, that entrusted amount would then be remitted to revenue and tax, and that's how I interpret it. And I just want to verify as to how do you interpret it as double taxation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dave. And do you want to respond to that before?
I'll respond after I find the,
Okay.
the language.
No problem. So I wanted to go back to Managing Director Tyron. I like that. Can you? Is this this is a obviously we're trying to simplify this one-time fee, or if as a less I guess if we can make it just a one-time fee for the visiting folks when addressing what the intent, then I think we should look at that option. And the only thing is, what is the representation of all the other additional fees on top of the 15% that you charge during at the HOT? No, what are the probable additionals that we can, put them all together and say, okay, this is a one-time fee. We'll get you to this. We'll get you to that. And can you just qualify? I mean, do you have anything? Put pen to paper or something? I mean.
I didn't come prepared for
No,
the
that's
for this
fine. I mean-
discussion, but we can definitely come back to you with additional information. But just off the top of my mind is Maniagaha's $10 entry fee, which it is a challenge to be collecting that right there at the dock, right?
Sure.
And then the $5 fee that is charged at Grotto,
Mhm.
and there's somebody standing by to be collecting the receipts, and so it's very difficult also for our visitors and our tour operators, because they have to go and make the payment at Parks and Recs, and then they come and bring the receipts. So it is very difficult for a $5 payment to have to go
Sure.
through that process, right? So those are just the two that on the top of my mind. But I truly honestly feel that we have such a great destination here that we should monetize it. Even Montapachao, that's a world-class site to see. You can see 360 of the island. Any other destination would be charging an entry fee to enter a place like that. And even at the north part of our islands, same thing. But right now, like I mentioned, we're spending so much money to maintain it. Parks and Recs is working very hard, and it's costing CNMI all this money to just maintain those sites, but we don't get any revenue generated from there. So we can come back to you with a little bit more substance and some figures, because I also have a calculation, at least right now, how much does each tourist generate in hotel occupancy tax in their 3 nights or 4 nights that they stay here. So we can calculate that and add in everything else and add a little bit more to really, so just taking a step back, like what Palau charges is a sustainability fee. So it really ties into everything. So when you get charged $100 for sustainability fee, and then you go to Palau and you arrive there and your passport gets stamped, your Palau pledge that you pledge to, take care of the island and take care of the reefs and respect the people and the islands, that's already a start. Then you go out of the airport and you see everywhere says Pristine Paradise Palau. Then the plastic bags are banned. Plastic cutleries and styrofoam plates are all banned. They have a huge recycling initiative on the islands. And then they are UNESCO World Heritage for their rock islands. And, throughout all the different touch points that you have as a visitor, even visiting their night market, they are using leaves for their plates. When people buy little samples to try, they're using leaves. They're doing so many sustainable initiatives. So when you get charged that, but then they deliver on the promise that you're going to have a sustainable experience, you feel good. And so I truly feel that we can do that here too, but we cannot just charge a fee and then people would go to those sites and it's not maintained, right? So we have to charge a fee and deliver on that promise that you're paying this fee and you get free access to all these world-class sites. But then we have to deliver on that. We have to make sure it's maintained. We have to make sure that at the end of the day, people would pay to go to that place, right? And then when they come here and they pay that, or they leave and they pay it, they would feel happy that they paid that because they got free access to all these wonderful places. And just doing some quick calculations again, it is, if we are able to collect at the entry, 100% of from tourists, it would be a significant amount more than what we're collecting on hotel occupancy tax right now, plus the $10 plus the $5 if you add it all together. Because not everybody will go to the grotto, for example. Not everybody will go to Manigaha, but they get access to all the sites. But that fee includes, whatever Parks and Recs, $5 for every single passenger or every single visitor. But let's say only like 50% would go there, but they already get the money for every visitor. So I think it's definitely worth more discussion and more research, and we can start that if that's a direction that you'd like to consider.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely open for an improvement of the legislation. Again, I'm of the opinion that this is the appropriate time to fix all these types of initiatives, so that when we get back on track, it's at least presented in advance, so that they know what to expect and what are the guidance. So again, this is a very good discussion for today, and please submit whatever you have to the committee. I almost want to say that I want to turn this bill around in 15 days, but every time that we discuss and get guidance from the expert, I mean you all, it makes me think that the committee can keep this particular legislation going and improve it, and then get the endorsement from the majority of the members of the Senate. So any other discussion on this particular bill? Because I do want to ask, and I apologize, but I'm going to ask maybe one or two entities, or you guys can stay back. We're going to talk about this waiver of penalties, also legislation. It's in committee also, and but I do want to limit our discussion again, and I want to move forward on this particular discussion in the next 5 minutes, and we'll take a break for 5 minutes, and then we'll fall into the other legislation. Senator Costru.
Sorry, I'm just really excited because I'm hearing music to my ears right now, from the agencies. I think we're all faced with the same challenges, but the issues are right in front of our face, and in terms of even that amount, we just need to look at the earmarks. Like, for example, beautification tax. A portion of that is going to MVA, and then MVA remits that back to Parks and Rec to clean up the sites. But so what we need to do is get MVA out of the administrative transferring of funds, and just put that. I mean, it's kind of like the excise tax at the port. You get the money up front, right, and then you can appropriate it to where it needs to go. In essence, if we do something similar like what Palau is doing with a green fee or whatever fee at the airport, not only can you assess that fee, you can also extend the survey further to have the tourists answer all the questions that the hotel needs, that the industry needs. Data is really important, and one thing I really admire about places like Korea is if you want to find what's the median household income of this specific city, you can just get that right now. But we have the data, we're just not using it. In regards to to doing that process, I know just for some reference, I know Rep Marissa said she was gonna work on something like this. Obviously we cannot be the one to introduce this kind of bill, but we can definitely
Sure.
hear all you guys out and fix this one and send it back to the way it needs to be, so we don't lose time. Thank you for your time again.
Thank you. And before I call on a break, please, Managing Director Jamaica, please don't forget to include on the drop downs a package due to Rhoda and a package due to Tinian. Okay.
Noted.
Because there's that uniqueness also, so we want to make sure that we I'm sure that there's going to be some you'll be surprised how many visitors would like to be more adventurous to even go to that extent. So So
Yeah, actually, can I just add that
Please.
that was something that was brought up and discussed recently with the Secretary of Finance too. Is, you know, we want to understand exactly what are people's intention when they come here. Yes, we do have we have some selection like diving, golfing, and you know different selections, but we also really want to understand people's intention to go to the other islands as well, because currently there's no way or MVA currently does not have data on how many visitors come to Saipan and then go onwards to Tinian and Rota, or also how many Saipan residents go to Tinian for vacation or go to Rota for vacation. This is critical data that we need so that we know what kind of efforts and what is working, what is not working, and how we can promote the islands better. But at this current moment, we've approached with the airlines to see if they can help us to collect data for this reason. We've approached, the airport. We've approached customs, and it doesn't currently fall under anybody's
we have an answer for you.
jurisdiction.
There's what they call Office of the Mayors of the respective islands. You can actually work with their offices
We'd love
to
to do
allow
that.
some of that.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they'll be more than welcome to assist in that regards. And sticking with the airlines, please work with Micronesian Air Carrier and Star Marianas.
Yes.
Maybe they can also help with navigating the transient or transport to Rota and Tinian for that matter. So I'm gonna take a 5 minutes break. I want to thank you all for this wonderful discussion on this particular bill, and I respectfully ask that please stay back for this another bill that is probably not going to take this long, or an hour and a half to discuss this particular one. But if you can, if you cannot, then I understand. So we're going to take a 5 minute break. Thank you. We're back into our committee meeting, and once again, we have several members, the community stakeholders of the community, assisting the committee with some of the discussions this afternoon. And as I mentioned earlier, the chair wishes to request that we go ahead to item number 4 under House Joint Resolution number 24-1 to urgently request immediate inclusion of the Republic of the Philippines in the non-immigrant Guam CNMI visa waiver program administered by the United States Department of Homeland Security. And at this time, I wish to recognize, excuse me, Ms. Tyron, Managing Director, if this is something that you want to share your comments on. Do you have a copy of this by any chance? The House Joint Resolution for.
I don't, but I'll share here with Director Joe. Thank you.
I mean, is this something that it's a House Joint Resolution, so it does require both houses' disposition on it? So, just share your thoughts on what do you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to speak on this. The MVA does support this bill. There have been recent interests from some of the airlines out of the Philippines, as well as a recent huge increase in their outbound Filipino travelers. And we feel that this could be an opportunity for us to have another market and get in airlines from the Philippines and develop this market so that we would have air access both for inbound and outbound travelers, and as well for once we get that air access, it'll be also great for our local people who would like to go to the Philippines for medical or go onwards to other destinations and transit through the Philippines. So the MVA does support this bill.
Thank you, Director. Any other entity, Chamber, President Joe?
Yes, thank you, Chair Schneider. Yes, the Saipan Chamber of Commerce, like the MVA, supports opening up our markets for access to tourists from the Philippines, and we ask you to support this House Joint Resolution. There are plans underway to build a new airport around Manila, one of the largest airports to the tune of $15 billion.
Wow.
One of the major airports, matching major airports around the world, and so their plan is to have the Philippines, Manila in particular, be a hub, a major hub. And so if this visa waiver goes through, then we would have access to millions of millionaires in the Philippines every day, and it's growing. The middle class and upper middle class in the Philippines, just like in many other Asian countries, is the fastest growing globally in Asia and in the Philippines. And so we think it's a future market for us that we should not discount, because other countries are already vying for this growing traveler base from the Philippines. Thank you.
Thank you, President Joe Guerrero. Hanmi, Mr. Seo.
Yes, sir, Chair. Hanmi, we strongly support this the bill HJR 24-01, because we believe that this may bring up the more chances for to expand our market source. Not, as I said before, not only depending on the three major the major tourism market source, but having it already great to have a more diversity of the market source. So in this regard, we strongly support this one, and we believe having Filipino nationalities to include in the CNMI visa waiver program, that may have the possibility to expand the air services to CNMI. And the another in this regard, there will be possible, transition. I mean, the transit or connection services, for example, from from the another the nation around the Philippines, then they may transit in the Manila and make their travel to the Marianas to shorter. So there will be again, there will be more opportunity for the better air services. So for those reasons, the Hammi strongly support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sil. Director Daniel, if you wish to offer a comment, if you wish not to, then you're good. Okay. So any members would wish to offer comments?
Just a
Floor leader,
question.
yeah.
Can you help us understand the process that the traveler goes to enter from these visa waiver countries? They have to apply and then they have to get approval still? They have to have income, all of that stuff, or is that not required?
So I don't know the full process, but I can share a little bit of what I know. So certain people from certain countries under the U.S. visa waiver, they would apply for an ESTA, and so they would have to fill in some of their personal information, their data. I don't know exactly what is collected there, and then they would present that at CBP. But if it's with the EVS TAP for people from China, there is a travel authorization. It's a little bit more detailed, but it's similar. They put in their personal information. They submit their copy of their passport on that platform, and then it goes through a vetting process. It gets sent to CBP, and then when CBP approves it, they'll get an approval for their travel authorization, and that's what they would also use to present at CBP.
So you wouldn't know if like income is part of the question or requirement, only because with this China waiver, right? Some of the concerns that came about from these Chinese travelers is the birth tourism, and so will we see some of that with visitors from Philippines, and so how do we address that head on prior to supporting something like this? So I was just trying to plan ahead, right, so that we can also address and maybe some of the concerns that may come from U.S. Congress would be, again, the birth tourism that was an issue back when there was so much Chinese travelers coming into the CNMI.
From a business perspective and from a market destination, market perspective, tourists, whether you come in for other, illegitimate reasons or legal reasons, that's, I think, beyond our concern. It's, in my opinion, it's a federal concern, right? And that's for them to put resources into and monitor and enforce that. But I think majority, we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? There's always going to be concerns, no matter which market. Even when we had Japanese coming to the CNMI, they were on watch lists for various reasons, right? So it doesn't matter. Majority of the people that will come, we believe, will come through and take advantage of this visa waiver program would come for tourists. Even coming here, traveling here, and staying in our hotels, they're not cheap. We will get a higher spending population. So, those are my thoughts. Thank you.
But there's always that unintended consequence of if this gets abused, then we lose our CW workforce if that doesn't get extended or added on. So it might make it harder for other areas of where we would need workers from these countries to come in, and so it's
So what I understand is that the travelers from the Philippines, so Philippine nationals traveling into the U.S. already, like they get a visa. They have a very low overstay rate, and they have a score that they assign to these countries, and so they have a very good compliance rate, for lack of a better word. And so it it appears that the Philippine nationals are a good source of tourists for the rest of the United States, but they are probably more likely to travel here. It's only 3.5 hours, similar time zone. They can easily come here for a weekend of golf or fishing or just taking advantage of our nature. And so, again, it's a market that we should pursue. That's in front of us, and the U.S. visa waiver. The Guam Sinai U.S. visa waiver is a tool provided, right, by Congress for our unique situation. This visa waiver is not for the rest of the United States. They still have to apply for a visa. So if it's a tool that's provided, let's, with the spirit of the covenant, let's take advantage and ask the federal government through our delegate Hines to provide resources to police some of these unfortunate bad actors. But very good concern. Thank you.
Yeah. MV, has there been any plans or discussion of even just visiting that market without this visa waiver? I mean, seeing as how we're reading that Cebu Pacific is coming back to Guam, and then I think Philippine Airlines is adding another flight, if I'm not mistaken, and so they're kind of expanding there with the Philippine market. Is that something that MVA has also looked into?
Yes, we are interested in pursuing this market even without the visa waiver. But if we did have the visa waiver, it would just open up to so much more opportunities. So, and that's why we would like to support it.
And we are in, I'm also serve on the MVA board, but we are in discussions with some highly interested operators to enter our market. And when I asked about the visa waiver, is this required? They said no, but if we have it, then it'll almost guarantee the success of the market. So that's where we're concerned. We would not want an airline to come in here, test the waters, and then pull out. It's not good for the market. It sends the wrong signal to every other market that we're trying to bring in. And MVA is pursuing all markets that are viable. And so we hope we get the support and, of course, address all the concerns and invite Philippine nationals to come here. I can't understate the growing number. It's in the millions of middle and upper middle class Filipinos that are traveling right now around the world. They're going everywhere except Saipan because without the waivers, it just makes it harder to just kind of impulse buy. Hey, let's go next weekend, rather than go down to the U.S. Embassy in Manila, line up, take your whole family there. It's a burdensome process. They're doing that right now to go into Guam. The whole family will go to U.S. Embassy in Manila. But if it was so much easier, both the Guam market and the Sinai market, I think would really it'll expand tremendously. Thank you.
Thank you. You, Chair.
Thank you, Floor Leader Manglonia. I recognize Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Chairman. And I'm glad the MBA and the rest are looking for, options, right, to bring tourism. And I remember, in line with what the Vice Floor Leader mentioned in regards to any attempt or any approach by MBA, because I remember that the Philippine airline used to come here, but it doesn't last long. I'm wondering, why do we have numbers or just numbers of interest Philippine tourists wish to come here, but they have issue with visa, or it's just that returning resident are the only customer for the Philippine airline? That's why they shut down that. Because I was hoping I would like to try and fly with Philippine airline, but it didn't give me the opportunity to fly that. No, they just shut down. I'm wondering whether you guys have any data as to what happened. And I know you guys got involved with that, right? When they opened that, you got involved with the Philippine airline. May we ask as to what's the problem? So maybe we can, if it's not in this bill, maybe we can, it's the resolution, maybe we can ask the author to include whatever that will best suit the resolution. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So that was a few years ago, and at that time, MVA was supportive of Philippine Airlines, but it wasn't the right time in that market. These years and in most recent months, specifically, they're outbound and President here said that their middle class and their upper class has really boomed. So we feel that this is the right time to consider this now. And again, especially if we're able to get the visa waiver. And you're right, like with regard, let's just say with, any airlines, even our current airlines to Japan right now, we want more tourists, but the fact is it is a vehicle for local people to go in and out of the CNMI also. So, and that's healthy. It's healthy for an airline to have a mix of local, domestic, local residents and tourists, and that will help fill the occupancy in the plane. So we feel that this is the same with if we get a carrier from the Philippines. This with the fact that their market and their residents are traveling. There's a huge travel outbound travel boom now, and then also it serves as a vehicle for our local people to also go to the Philippines and go onwards beyond that.
Thank you, and I wish everybody luck with this, and I hope that you guys continue to, to push with that airline. Maybe perhaps they can also, start that flight again, if we can convince them, no?
Yeah. If I may add.
Thank you, Chairman.
Oh, sorry. Ms. Pinsa. Yeah, if I may add. So one of the concepts is if we have the visa waiver for the CNMI, right, for Philippine nationals, then that would help fill up the seats. But then that would just open a pipeline for CNMI medical referral to travel to the Philippines or beyond, right? Again, Manila and then the new airport outside of Manila is going to be a major gateway, just like how we think of Narita or Seoul, right? We're not going to Seoul, but we pass through Seoul to go to another place or Narita. So my hope is that it'll allow more business, more medical opportunities for medical referral, for example, so our patients can easily just go over there for their checkup and not have to transit through Guam, for example. But other airlines may be interested as well, and it's not just whether it's a Philippine Airlines or Cebu Pacific. There are maybe U.S. carriers that may want to fly through the CNMI, through Manila from onward and onward to the U.S. So again, just opening up the connectivity, right? Again, looking at the Philippines as a future and currently, but a future major airline hub for you to go anywhere. Yeah. So, thank you.
So if you're not tracking, there is a United from Manila to San Francisco, right now. So, FYI, Senator Paul.
Thank you, Chairman. I have to give my good friend, former Governor Carl Gutierrez, a big credit for actually fighting for this visa waiver for Guam, and has asked the CNMI to join him. Unfortunately, he's no longer with Guam Visitors Bureau, but I know that he championed this visa waiver. He actually made connections with the Philippines, especially their legislature, so that in their dealings with the U.S., especially since they're building bases all over the Philippines, that they incorporate this in their discussion, so they leverage also what the U.S. wants in the Philippines with this visa waiver. So we have to give him a lot of credit. But and that's why I want to say that maybe we should include here giving a copy on page 5 of the resolution to either the Philippine government, so that they know that the CNMI is in support. So it also makes them aware, so they can talk to their airlines or their tourism industry to give some focus to this area. So I just want to maybe offer an amendment to that regards, either the President of the Philippines or U.S. Congress so that we can include them. Also, the governor actually, after he got back from the 902 talks, he did mention that during the the representatives there, U.S. representatives were supportive of this visa waiver from the Philippines. So maybe, I know we already include Department of Homeland Security, but we can also maybe include the U.S. representative to the 902 talks. I believe he's one of the assistant deputy directors. So if we can include that, and then finally, to correct the the last part of the last sentence to reflect our new president, Carl, so that we can make that amendment. So I guess these have to go back to the House. So that's all, Mr. Chairman. Just Malsi.
Thank you. Thank you, members. If there's no further question and flagging or noting on the recommendation by Senator Poe, I want to go ahead and call for an adoption of this joint resolution and to mark it up for action by the full board. Do I hear any motion to adopt on committee House Joint Resolution number 24-01 as amended? Been offered by Senator Paul Magnolia, seconded by Senator Cruz. All those in favor of the motion to adopt HJR number 2401 as amended, please say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. The HJR number 24-01 hereby passes committee, and I respectfully ask the LB staff to prepare the updated version for action on by the full board. Okay, moving on to HGR 24-03 to urge United States Congress to require all contractors and subcontractors performing federally funded work in the Commonwealth and the Northern Mariana Islands to register with CNMI Department of Finance and certify compliance with CNMI tax laws as a condition of receiving federal payments, to request the Department of Defense to adopt CNMI specific laws in the Department of Defense Federal Acquisition Regulation Supplement, DFARS, to institutionalize this requirement and to affirm the CNMI's right under Section 703B of the Covenant to receive federal income tax revenue generated from contract work performed in the Commonwealth. The floor is open for any member to offer your comments before I allow the panels to. Any member? Ready? Very good.
At this time, I move to adopt HCR 2403.
There's a motion offered by the floor leader for the adoption of HGR 24-3. Do I hear a second? Under discussion, yeah.
Again, it's just to update the
Yes, Department of War, no?
Yeah,
Department of War.
the governor, Arno Palacios. Now it's
That's correct.
Apatan, right? So just I don't know. Do we need to make the change and send it back to the House for acceptance? Because even if it's a minor amendment, just to update it.
Council?
So,
I'll yield to the guidance of the council and the rules of
okay, so
engagement.
again, that's all I want to point out.
Thank you, Senator Paul. Members, so are we all in agreement that is a needed technical citation so that we can just adopt it in full board? Okay, so noted. So again, I think it's still a call for adoption. All those in favor to adopt House Joint Resolution 24-03, please say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. The joint resolution hereby passes the committee. And again, I ask the LB to staff to prepare this for disposition by the full board. Number 6, House Joint Resolution number 24-8 to urge the United States to take immediate and comprehensive action to identify, remove, and safely dispose of World War II era unexploited ordnance through the Northern Mariana Islands. Discussion. No discussion? Ready? All those in favor for the adoption on committee HJR 24-08, please say aye. All those opposed? Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, at this time I move for the adoption of
Thank you.
HJR 2408.
It's a long day already, folks. Apologize. So, offered by the floor leader for adoption. It's been seconded. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion for the adoption of House Joint Resolution number 24-08, please say aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. HJR 24-08 hereby passes the committee. And on number 7, HJR 24-09, to respectfully urge the United States Department of Treasury, United States Customs and Border Protection, United States Postal Service, and any other responsible federal agencies to immediately cease and desist the implementation of Executive Order 14324 and remit to the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands all revenue collected under Executive Order 14324, or in the alternative, to recognize the CNMS authority to collect such revenue itself consistent with the covenant and applicable law in the event that set charges must be imposed. Discussion. Ready? Council, before I entertain a motion, can you just do a brief summary of what this is asking for? We'll take a couple minutes recess. So. Okay, we're back into our meeting, and before we took the recess, we were discussing HJR 24-09, and this time the chair wishes to opens the floor for any member to offer a motion to adopt.
At this time, Chairman, I move to adopt HJR 2409.
Then a motion offered by the floor leader for the adoption of HJR 2409 and been seconded. All those in favor? Please say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. HJR 24-09 is hereby adopted in committee. Thank you, members. At this time, I wish to revert back to the order of business and take a look at and discuss House Bill 24-12 to promote economic recovery and provide relief of CNMI taxpayers by waiving penalties and interest on unpaid taxes due to financial and socioeconomic hardships. And I open the floor with the guidance of Mr. Dimopon. As of the financial statement as of September 30, 2021, there's approximately $4.3 million in penalties, fines, interest, and of delinquent taxes. And as of fiscal year 2024, the actual collection is of penalties, interest, and delinquent taxes is approximately 1.231963. So the latest audited information is from 2021, and I'm of the understanding that this is the legislation that's calling for to address. Unfortunately, our Reverend Tax Director had to leave for another engagement, but I would leave it up to the members to discuss whether or not to move forward with this legislation as is, based on the documents provided by our fiscal analyst, Mr. Dimopon, and or if you want to get some more comments from Dave for more guidance, I'm open to that option as well, so that he can guide us along. Members? Dave, maybe for consistency, maybe Binoywa Zagun, just go ahead and explain what this bill intends, no?
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I just want to clarify that 4 million sum showing on the audited financial statement for 2021 represents the entire outstanding taxes. Of that, we don't know how much exactly is for delinquent taxes on penalties, interest, and fines. So that's the reason why I was planning to ask the director what's the actual balance today on delinquent taxes, on penalties, interest, and fines. Yeah.
So this is what I'll ask the members, and I do want to help with this legislation, but I think the most accurate information that we get, the better for all of us to be informed, no? So with that, Jolene, please assist the committee in crafting a inquiry for the latest information as indicated by the fiscal analyst, so that we can be better guided as far as the intent of this legislation, and ask if we can get this information within the next 7 days, calendar days, business days. Recognize Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Chairman. I know I got involved twice in this kind of request in the past. I think in the 18th legislature that we waive penalties on is it possible if finance can provide us information as to, if it's not confidential, to know who are these, to see whether this is a repeater, and we continue to understand that we want to help, but if the same company that's still operating and still continue to violate, then I don't know how we can stop violation in the future. And just want to know, because I know that I questioned this back then, that prior to me getting involved in approving 2 times, it was before I came in, it was done before that, and continue
Okay.
to wait for that. I'm not saying not to help, no, because of all these reason that they put in there, but we want to know whether or not there's a lot of repeaters in this kind of.
That's a fair question, but maybe this is a good time for us to take a very short recess to address some of the concerns raised by Senator Cruz. And after further discussion and deliberation, the committee recommends the further inquiry and by way of commissioning a letter to Department of Revenue Tax or Division of Revenue Tax for more clarification and for more data as far as the legislation is asking for, intended objective of the legislation. Thank you, members, for your participation. Moving on to item 3, House Bill number 24-54. Pretty straightforward. It's a legislation to increase the military leave hours available to CNMI government employees and to broaden eligibility for its use.
I think maybe we should table this, Mr. Chairman. I mean, only because of the austerity measures before us, or?
This one is actually like the number of days, the maximum amount paid, like on page 4, the maximum amount paid leave authorized under this section is 30 working days per calendar year. A 30-day cap shall not prevent an employer from electing to use the accrued leave benefits for absence in excess of the cap. So basically, when you go on military leave, that's 30 days. Any further discussion, council?
No, but if somebody's like active within that 1 month on military duty, do they get paid by the military for the 1 month of service? On top of their whatever leave they're on?
I think it's very straightforward. I don't have an issue with this particular legislation. I think we need to be accommodating to our veterans, and our military personnel. If you look at page 3 under the operative portion of the bill, subsection 101, all permanent employees of the Commonwealth Government, including those in executive, legislative, judicial branches, and any autonomous agencies, office, board, authority, commission, or instrumentality, shall be entitled to paid military and emergency service leave not to exceed 30 working days per calendar year. This leave shall be available to all permanent Commonwealth Government employees that are members of the following: the United States Coast Guard, the reserve component of the U.S. Armed Forces, the Federal Managed Emergency Management Agency Reservist Program, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Commission Officer Corps, or other uniform of service covered by the Uniform Service Employment and Reemployment Rights Act of 38 U.S.C. subsection 4301, and are ordered to perform active duty training, emergency response, authorized service under a competent military, federal, or state authority, including service in response to a national emergency, disaster, or any other major incident, and then so forth.
Yeah, Molika.
I think this is a very reasonable ask, and I ask the members to let's mark it up, move it out from committee. Senator Calvo, you want to comment on something?
Thank you, Chairman. I do support this bill and move to pass in its original form. Just in knowing the demand and service obligations that our military armed forces men and women have, the extended period of time that they may need for such services, they would benefit from this. So I do support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Calvo. Any other member? Senator Cruz?
I second to that, no, Mr. Chairman. I was going to make the move and no further discussion on this matter because these guys, they continue to sacrifice their life to defend our freedom, and I think no further discussion needed in this bill. Move to pass as what the Chairman Calvo, and I second to that. Thank you very much.
So
And I
the
appreciate
appropriate
the
motion
service.
have been made by Senator Cruz for the passage in committee. House Bill 2454 and seconded by Senator Manny Castro. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. House Bill 2454 hereby passes committee. And that essentially wraps up our order of business today. Thank you,
Mr. Chairman?
members. Recognize and to vote.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I know we discussed earlier, is it 2432, the transient? Mr. Chairman, I guess I know that there are several concerns by the members, but do you think we can put this out in the next session and pass it? We heard the concerns by the members, but maybe we can ask our legal counsel to, make the changes so that we can get it out. Just because of the urgency of the matter, we heard from the president, Joe Guerrero,
Okay, if there's one, and I appreciate that, no, Senator Poe, but if there's one thing that I want to consider getting comments from is the points made by MVA and Director Alvarez, because Director Alvarez seems to have some concerns with regard to some of the language. So, if possible, let's allow for at least another 15 days in committee at least to make sure that we tighten some of the provisions, do some clarifying amendments, because I do too want to reference some of the concerns raised by our good Senate President neighbors with regard to some of the contradicting clarifying comments. So I asked the members to review. Council Bermudez and Dave and Jolin, please review the concerns raised by the President and make sure that it's addressed. No, so Molika.
Okay, so for 15 days, but I asked Mr. Chairman if the legal counsel and the LA can, having heard the concerns that we raised, to have at least in the next week or so the amendments that we offered.
Okay.
So to work with the language and to check the appropriate member who raised the issue to see if the language works, so that when we meet next time, there's already amendments ready to be voted on. Okay, thank you.
That's fair. Appreciate your understanding, Senator Poe. Thank you for that recommendation. Senator Castro.
Yes, Chairman. So I believe MVA, they did mention that they have some of the concepts. And like I mentioned earlier, Rep. Marissa had something in draft form. And perhaps just to expedite this, we can take her draft form and work with MVA. The LAs can assist with that. But it really comes down to just streamlining the process of collecting these sources of revenue for the benefit of not only our government, but the consumers, the tourists themselves, because it's just very messy.
Right. And thank you, members. And I know one thing that kind of caught my attention was the multiple, like you go to Grotto, you get this. You go to Manila, you're asked to do this. But if we can just condense that into one portal and just flush it out so that the visitor can be guided and it's user friendly, per se. So I just ask that we this is a good opportunity to make that fix. With that announcement, nothing further. With that, any member, please offer a motion to adjourn. Then offer motion to adjourn was offered by Senator Castro. Do you hear a second? All those in favor of the motion to adjourn this committee meeting, please say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. This meeting stands adjourned. Thank you, members, and thank you, staff, and I appreciate the viewing public for joining us this afternoon. This is Masi.